coaches, this is the very first ever, to my knowledge, and I'm not very knowledgeable, but first online live coaching interview through Twitch. So, and is with the beautiful man, the bearded man, Coach Dave Marsh. Dave, thank you so much for coming back on and talking ball. For those coaches that are just now coming in, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, man?
And progressed, and then was very fortunate during my first turnover of coaching staffs when I was like, okay, how am I going to get another job? Our head coach retired. I was able to move on to a powerhouse in the state of Arizona and become the quarterbacks, wide receivers coach, and the pass game coordinator there, and then become the offensive coordinator. And I will tell you, through talent that was on campus and development, was opened some doors for me to the college level. And through that, I was able to spend 4 years, almost 5 years, GA and QC, all that entry level stuff at the Pac-12 and SEC level. Then a couple of years ago, I got an opportunity to help transition Campbell University out of non-scholarship Division I football into scholarship Division I football, and then taking on our new project and our new building process down here at Texas Southern in Houston. So the last couple of years, I've been the offense coordinator and quarterbacks coach with a couple different styles of quarterbacks, from running guys and running power gap team offenses to getting back into my background, which is the air raid based system. Which is some of the stuff we're talking about, but some of the auxiliary plays that we've developed over the years, or really, I should say, stolen over the years.
That is awesome. Now, you're one of the few guys that have actually made that jump from high school to college. So first off, kudos to you. And so for those, if you can just give like a little quick, maybe some suggestions, because I know there's a lot of high school coaches, especially young high school coaches, that want to make that jump. Is there any tips you can give them, or is it just like luck of the draw?
So the first one is one word, which is sacrifice. It is a major all in, double down gamble on your future. And I'm not a betting person like at all, which is crazy that I'm that spirited to do it. But like I don't sit down and play poker. I have the worst luck rolling dice, so I'm not even allowed to play those games with friends. But it's sacrifice. I was actually laughing with our staff the week we were going into spring ball. My current address is the longest I've had the same address in 20 years, and it's 14 months.
Wow.
So it's a little bit different. Like I don't have the normal lifestyle of that sense. I've had to move a lot. I've slept on a lot of couches for months at a time. And a bunch of guys have done that. I'm not saying that I'm the only one, but when you're trying to make that transition and you are the quote unquote outsider, you have to find your way in. And sometimes it comes down to not making any money, sleeping in an office, sleeping on a couch, sleeping in your car, showering at the beach like I had to a couple times to make it work. And then you have to bet on yourself. To me, I think, and I'm not allowed to talk about recruiting, but it's the same thing with young people of wanting the Power 5 Alabama offer and the biggest offer that they can get when you're looking to play football continuously. You're looking for somebody to pay for your school. And I got to make sure I don't cross the line on what I'm allowed to talk about in these recruiting talks.
Yeah, I don't want you to get in trouble.
It's you gotta find that balance of not every job needs to be the Power 5 job that you see on ESPN every day on the ticker. Is there are over 300 plus Division I football jobs between FCS and FBS. Then you have hundreds of D2, D3, NAIA, and JUCOs that are college football. And there are a ton of guys that have come out of those levels and worked their way up. Some guys, and some of the best football guys I know, are head coaches at those smaller school jobs. So to me, it's not always about getting the job at the biggest name on your logo or getting that beautiful logo on your shirt that you think that's going to get you in the door everywhere. Is you got to get your foot in the door somewhere, and then it comes down to sacrifice. How much are you willing to, and how long are you willing to take those minimal wage jobs? Like some guys are very fortunate that they can go in the door as a position guy right out the bat. But for some of us, we always got to grind for it. And to me, that's the beauty in that struggle of finding your way through it, and trusting it. I've been very fortunate my last two jobs, specifically the last two jobs and here at Texas Southern, even though we're in, I think, the sixth biggest city in the country, it's a community school and it feels like it. And so you get the blessings of having that community impact that we all had as high school coaches, where it matters to the community. Parents are involved, schools are involved, local restaurants are involved. And to me, that's the beauty of where I'm at, is it's the combination of all of it.
Well, that's cool, man, because you really don't get in the college level where you're at, parents actually involved and the community.
Mm-hmm.
So that's neat. All right, so we've got some coaches in here. Hey, if you have any questions, you ask them in chat. So, Michael, what's going on? Thank you. I messed up at first. I didn't have your sound, so they let me know. So I fixed that.
Okay.
Jolly, what's going on, man? Red Sox, I coach at a little school in South Carolina, and he coaches at a big-time school in Texas. Rhett, what's going on, man? So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about four verts, because you've got air raid background.
Yep.
I love the air raid. I have an air raid background. What better route to talk about other than mesh than the four verts package?
Yep.
So take it away, man, because I'm ready to learn.
Okay, so the first thing is, as you and I met in person last summer, is we both have an affinity and a background in the air raid, but we both love studying the run and shoot.
Yes.
And I try to study, and my study is not always about X's and O's. I love studying how people teach things, because that might change my viewpoint or understanding on a specific concept if it's taught differently by a different person. So like, instruction is always something that's very important to me on learning. So one of the things that was funny, and it was Coach Mazzoni taught me this a long time ago, is everybody runs four verts, but everybody teaches it differently, whether it's the way you teach the wide receivers, the way you teach the quarterback, the drop, guys that I went to visit all over the country. One of the main questions I always ask is four verts. So when I took over the offensive coordinator job at Campbell, I ran it the classic way: goes on the outside, seam reads on the inside. And then we had a great kid the first year that was fantastic at throwing back shoulder. Well, the backup couldn't, and 3 games into the year, the backup became the starter. So we were always struggling completing the outside route on four verts unless the guy just won over the top. So for me, it went back into studying it and looking at a way to maximize it. And a little sidebar on that is, about 4 years ago, I realized I don't want this to be a vertical 40-yard throw, verticals off the seam reads. I'm trying to throw this ball between about 12 yards to 24 yards downfield. So it's more precise for the quarterback, higher percentage throws, and it's more of a quick intermediate throw than it is anything. So what we went to, and I have screen share on, right?
Yeah, you should.
Okay. Is make sure I'm on our drop back, four verts. Okay. So what we went to is, not only do the inside guys have the seam read. All right. So we're in our wide split stuff here. So if you're the number 2, your landmark is what we call a cylinder of +3 and -3 of the hash on each side. So you have +3 and -3 to end up on. Outside releasing number 2. If you don't win at 12, by 14, you have to curl up and find the window to the quarterback, whether it's just outside the hash or just inside the hash, based off of what the number 2 defender does to you. So they're making their decision at 12, executing by 14, and curling up or running down the hash. But this is how we basically throw our benders, because we take our different splits, but they know where their landmark is, and the quarterback can pull them into that landmark with certain throws. Now, our biggest adjustment was on the outside. Okay, so seam read by the inside guys and what we call stow by the outside guys. So a stow is a stop or win, all right? Now we're running our go route on the outside, basically. You're taking off, you're trying to threaten him vertically. If you don't win, you're making – so it's the same read as the inside guy, but now it's on the number to the sideline. At 10 yards, I've made my decision if I can beat him or not. and I'm going to execute it by 12 yards. Now, depending on the speed of your players, we pushed it from 10 to 12 to 12, 14, which means you have to move the inside guys up that 2-yard increment as well. So it all depends on what you're doing. Now in our reads, when we get into this stuff, the quarterback is picking the best matchup starting outside because that's the shorter throw. So he's going to be able to work his quick 3 and be able to trigger, whether it's vertically over the top on the win or being able to trigger on the stop part of the route. All right. If he hitches, then he's going back inside, and then it's classic 4 verts rules. If it's split safety, I'm outside, inside to the back. If it's post safety, it's outside, opposite to the back. And those are our 3 reads that we're going through. So right here with that Iowa State Cyclone defense, you got the 3 high, middle guy standing right at 10 yards or trying to get at 10 yards, getting that ref out of the way. But we press on the outside. So right here, we know with this GoDaddy right here that we have on the outside, we know that we have a chance unless they somehow play cloud over the top. So he's going to work this side. And if it turns into a one-on-one situation, he knows that he's working the outside guy right now. 1, 2, 3. As you see, I'm going to talk about the wide receiver first. Little footwork at the top, run to win. And if he stacks here just a little bit better, all right, he's going to have a chance right here at the end. But because he doesn't stack, he's not able to get over the top of the guy when the ball pulls him inside. All right. So that's the biggest key for the wide receiver is once you race to win, you got to race to stack back over the top of the guy, even if it's leading into him, so you can work that bucket throw, which helps the quarterback be more proficient by putting the ball outside him. But with some of our wide split stuff, sometimes the throw is not as perfect. Okay, so from the quarterback standpoint, we use the backpedal drop. Again, I'm a left-handed quarterback coach that grew up coaching wide receivers. So a few years ago, I went to different guys to get a little bit better of the understanding. So I switched to the backpedal because being left-handed, they can mimic me staring at them, get it. So right here, knowing that he has his primary target one-on-one pre-snap, he should go quick 3 right there, and the ball should be gone. That way, if that receiver wins as early as he does and actually stacks the guy, we have a better home run chance for the touchdown throw right here. But he pops his feet right there and hitches at the top to let it go, which then in turns the throw into the 40-yard throw when we're trying to throw it around the 24-yard marker. All right, so that's one of the big ones right there on the coaching point is he's got to be able to hit that back foot and drive that ball right now like it's a fade off of 3 steps instead of 1.
All right, I got a question about the drop back. Was
Yes,
that
sir.
this year that you changed, or how long?
No, I changed 2 years ago.
Okay, how big of a change was that for your quarterbacks?
It takes them a long time. The young man at Campbell loved it because it kept his shoulders open so he could see the field a little bit better, especially at his height. This was an older player that had a couple different quarterback coaches, so it took him a little while to do it. So you'll see, watch his left foot right here. We also always, your first step is always the throwing hand foot first is your first step. There is no rocker or drop step first. Is he takes a false step with that opposite foot, picks it up, puts it down just because of trying to reteach his brain and his feet on how to step this way. This is one of the biggest things we work on all of spring ball, all of off season, like conditioning of just basically in skills and drills is teaching them to backpedal in a walking manner, and then all fall camp, all season. Anytime I'm physically allowed to work with them, we work on walking backwards, basically.
That's like the old school air raid drop back.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Okay.
Okay, so now we're going FIB with it or FSL, depending on your terminology. Okay, so we know that they're trying to play, they're a split safety team, but they're playing this guy all the way over here so they can get their quarters look, but they're going to play him lower so he can be the force player, which then in turn leaves, we had 2 GoDaddies on the outside. This young man did not start in the previous Clips game. He was actually the newcomer of the year in the league. He absolutely killed it for us. But this is exactly what we want is if we can get FIB and get one-on-one all the way to the field, we're going to take it right here every chance. And I know sometimes with Wi-Fi and this stuff, the clips are hard to see. So I'm going to let some of these play a time or two through and then go back through the coaching point. So same thing for the wide receiver, right? Wins off the bat, gets his eyes back probably 2 steps too early. But right here, he's already on the numbers. He's got to lean back into this guy to leave room for the quarterback out there. He's coming off the numbers already while the ball's still in the air, where if he holds it, he'll have a chance to fall away from the guy late and have a chance to run through that guy pulling him down. Now, this is later in the year. I think this might be the second to last game. You'll see a better shot of 14 right here. I think he triggers this on his third step. 1, 2, 3. Nope, still got the little pop. But gets the ball up and out, exactly what we're looking for.
All right, so I got a question from
Yes,
Coach
sir.
Witt. So you're saying he's got to set his feet to throw compared to hitting your third step and throwing?
Yes. No. Same thing as like when you're talking about in the under center 3-step drop where there's no hitch. You want him to take his 3 steps and drive that ball when his back foot's getting in the ground. I don't like him getting all the way to the drop or into a hitch step on this route. Now, because of the way he can snap the ball and his quick release, he gets away with it. Where I've had other quarterbacks, they got to get their foot in the ground and drive the ball now. Otherwise, they're going to be late just because of the depth of the route.
All right, so Trojans fan, this is why I love Twitch, the names. He says, so as soon as he plants, throw the ball, no hop, right?
Correct.
Okay.
100%. And then, so his footwork for us should be 3 to his primary target, hitch to his secondary target, and then if he gets to a second hitch, now he's going to the back.
Okay.
So in reality, I'm never going to be mad if he's got his one-on-one and it's the first year in the system, or if they're just more comfortable of popping their feet or hit, as most people would call it, hitching out of that 3-step, long as they can trigger on time. I'm not going to micromanage that component if they can get the ball on time. That's all I care about at the end of the day. We try to divide it into math and science. All right. If you can do the math, I'm not going to kill you about the science. If you're limited in your math, you better maximize your science so you're better at it. So science would be footwork, arm mechanics, throwing motion, eyes, all that little nuanced stuff that goes into throwing a football. All right. My first component is always maximizing math and cleaning up your science so it comes along, and then working within your science realm to speed up certain math parts, if that makes sense to everybody. That's how we kind of talk to our quarterbacks about it.
Bringing in science and math. Look at you.
Don't look at me. I don't know how to do any of it. I took majors and went to school. I had to take one college science class and one college math class because otherwise I wasn't going to make it through. So let's not get that one twisted. It helps the college kids, especially the kids that I've had to be around at some of my schools. So same thing. All right. So 3x1, press one-on-one. Probably rotating strong since they're already in a 6-man box. All right. Quarterbacks seeing what we refer to as the tilt, that they're going to rotate strong. 1, 2, 3, drives the ball.
That's nice.
One more time, and then we'll go back to the quarterback.
All right. Coach Baker says he likes that math science analogy, though.
Thanks, Coach Bake. I needed somebody to support me on that one. So right here, all right, there's a fine, and of course we got to go defensive butts here. All right, but if you watch his footwork right here, he's going 1, 2, 3, and ball comes out.
That looks nice.
Just so everybody can see it, of how fast we want that ball coming out.
And you're essentially going, hey, if it's one-on-one, we like those and we're going to throw it.
Yeah, and so what it comes down to is and you and I and some of the guys in our tree, and again, it goes back to your formation structure and your system. Our outside guys, 90% of the time, are not going to switch sides. They're going to be basically L's and R's instead of X's and Z's. All right, so we want our outside guys so we can play faster to stay on their respective sides unless it's specific packages, or formations. All right, so he's going to know, especially when we have two dudes, he can pick any matchup when it's one-on-one. One of the biggest defensive things that I've picked up in the last probably a half dozen years talking to defensive guys every year is in 3-by-1 to the field, they don't respect the number one to the field. So if that's our guy and they want to play some of that 4 mini and they're leaving their field corner, which is normally in most places their inferior corner, if that happens to be our best guy, the quarterback knows that he can work that field throw all day, which then goes back to the science of the vertical throws, is you better get it out on time or have the arm strength to beat that guy. But it allows us to throw and pick matchups one-on-one all day, where in some cases of 4 verts, you're always reading either one direction or from one side of the formation to the other. This allows us to start with matchups first and then get into directions.
Okay. Have a question. Is there a specific thought process / reason on throwing verts into a trip's boundary?
One-on-one to the field.
There you go.
One-on-one to the field, and then if they're rotating into post safety or even staying in quarters, too high. So if they stay what we would refer to as a split shell, if they stay split and they try to cloud or invert at all, and you don't throw the one-on-one, that safety's now gotten out of the window for the crosser, who is now coming back to his near hash. And he knows in split safety, my rules are outside to inside. So he's going one-on-one outside to the wide side to a guy running to the crossing hash with the whole half of the field to run to.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay, so again, we teach it different than a lot of people do because of some of the splits we use and some of the rules. So you're going to get what's supposed to be a cloud, even though that safety doesn't get off the hash very far. He knows that he can win best release, so he just widens himself back out. And we're fine with this as long as they get back into their cylinders, which is the bottom of the numbers to the sideline. Now, again, just like Coach was asking, though, even though it's to the short side, if this guy gets off the hash to be the half safety and cloud this guy, this now crossing hash has to find his way into that void on this side into his cylinder of +3, -3 at any angle.
All right. Now, what do you tell him that number 3? Is it kind of like Y cross rules over?
Yes.
Or under over?
He should be under Sam over Mike.
Okay.
So in this case, that guy's already displaced into a mini look, so they got 3/2 on the inside. He should be here, then climb, then snap it over.
Okay. Have you ever figured out why defensive coordinators don't respect the number 1 to the field?
Most people are not and have the intestinal fortitude, I guess would be the PC way to say it. As I've been practicing that during
I hear you, man.
my confinement, is
that's
they just don't think most people are going to throw vertical stemmed routes to the wide side of the field to the number 1. Yeah, this was a shellacking that day. They get a safety man, work it. He felt like he went 1. And then this DB starts getting over the top, and then he's just got the arm talent, and they had the you to me factor that we talk about. Not going to overcoach it, right? Get the math part done. He felt like that guy was going to get back over the top, so he back shoulders him. That's not a big coaching point to us, but they throw so much one-on-ones and so much with each other with your first 2 quarterbacks and your top 8 wide receivers that they just develop that rapport. One of the biggest things that you always got to find and develop as the coach is that you to me factor from all your positions. You got to let them go develop it. Just like your players know who the good players are before we do, right?
So how do you get them to develop that? Do you have any good drills or anything?
For back shoulder or just you to me factor?
Just you to meet a factor.
So at pre-practice, give them the coaching points. So settle and noose is always an air raid staple. I know run and shoot guys have different drills that they do that are the equivalent of, like I call it the slam step of indicating to the quarterback that you're about to plant so he can see it. I know in early run and shoot, they used to throw the hand up that they were stopping or if they were going, depending on who you played for. So in that factor, we always overemphasize not only the settle and noose drill of slamming when you get to a defender and then turning and getting the ball thrown away from you. We do a windows drill. So like in this situation, if this was just pre-practice lines of receivers with quarterbacks right back here in a line as well, is we'll put dummies or cones or even just us out there. And what we'll do is we'll have the line work. The person will work the dummy or work himself, and he'll either turn the dummy in or out. So you start to developing that factor of which way you're turning and feeling that rhythm off of all of our stop option routes. That way they can start to see it and incorporate the slam step into it. It also allows us to work the technical stuff that we're not going to work when we get into routes on air where we're trying to get as many reps as possible, or in Skelly where you're trying to get as many reps as possible. But the biggest one is like for me, the you to me factor is making sure that your four guys, if you're an open set team, are going with your number one. Like your alpha's got to be at the front of the line when your alpha quarterback's up. You can't waste any reps having me playing to your number one target. So like if we get into routes on air and the lines get mixed up and my all conference receiver is up, I'm going to make a quarterback switch back over that's the number one or number two quarterback and work his timing with that guy. I'm not going to waste his rep and have him run a comeback with my squirt gun of an arm trying to get it out to him. I'm not going to waste his legs, but I'd rather them continue to work on that timing. The other one is they just have to learn to take confidence in it. Just like for a lot of the air raid guys throwing six, all right, is you got to develop that confidence of, and again, why we switched to this version instead of the back shoulder is that was not my repertoire of teaching back shoulder throws to quarterbacks, being a wide receiver guy. So for me, I wanted something that I was better at teaching, which is the start stop of a route and the slam step. That way he knows it is a trigger indicator of driving the ball out off the indicator. And as soon as he clears his zone that's a no-go, he knows that he can drive the ball down the field.
I have a question about back shoulders. How are you teaching it? Are you telling you? Because for me, I've taught it two ways. I taught it throwing at the back of the head, or I'm sorry, in the middle of the shoulders, and it kind of takes off. And then the ball kept going up over the wide receiver's head. So then I was like, no, aim for the butt, and then it'll go up. So are you telling them any specific coaching points? Or
I teach it more for when we're playing true man teams, knowing that that's more of the scenario of when you're going to get the back shoulder and there's not going to be any conflict of zone. So some of our jet concepts of fade outs and where you're really sitting on your back foot waiting for the wide receiver to look at 10 yards. Really one of the biggest coaching points that I've taken in the last 2 years, like trying to get better at it, is it's not just the quarterback. So for the quarterback, it's as soon as the DB turns and runs, I'm getting ready to trigger. And then it's two more steps, or what I would call one more revolution from the wide receiver, then I'm throwing the ball. So as soon as that DB turns, no matter when it is, it's one more revolution from the wide receiver, knowing that that guy's committing to going vertical with that wide receiver. Then you're driving the ball at the back of his head.
Okay.
And then the wide receiver knows I'm not turning and this is where every guy that I've, just like verticals, everybody teaches it a little bit different, is it's look at 10 yards, it's look at 12 yards, it's look when the DB turns, look when he grabs you. The best one that I've gotten is, so the timing is the same, is it's when the DB turns, the wide receiver knows that the quarterback's throwing after 2 more steps, so he's going to look after 2 more steps. That way he's looking when the ball should be coming out, and then it's a split second before he should be catching the ball.
Okay.
But that's not because of our option routes that we run. That's not a big thing that we spend a lot of time on.
Gotcha.
Okay, right there, trying to cloud him. Sits in the honey hole. That's a big one right there of throttling down speed-wise. But right here, you're seeing mini. We were getting a lot of cloud, or people would call 6. All right, playing 2-on-1 on the backside. Look how open the field number 1 is all day. And that's our biggest thing, that if we see these safeties off the hash up there, or just any type of cloud team when we scout them, we want to start with the field, so that can become a scouting report thing, like we were talking about throwing to the field 1 vertically. Anytime we can get them to cover one of our guys with 2, the better chance we have of finding a 1-on-1 to win and exploit matchups.
So who's the quarterback looking at when he's dropping back? Like right there, it looked like he was trying to key somebody. Do you have him key somebody?
So he should be looking straight ahead. And again, it's all based off of what side he chose. So I know that that's his first read since he's starting over there. And it's going to be one of the outside guys. So he feels that safety is getting depth and coming off, that it's cloud. So he's going to get his feet down and just drive that ball into the honey hole. Now, what he should be doing is taking that same drop with the same eyes, but triggering to the field guy. And that's why we like the backpedal, because then his eyes can stay just like that no matter what he's looking at. Because now it's just a slight turn of the head. And I don't think the guys on Twitch can see me, as you can see me on the.
They can.
Okay. Is you want his head to barely move, but you want his eyes to more move towards where his primary read is, but keeping those shoulders and his head square to where everybody's forced to stay down the middle and just backpedal purely backwards. So like last year when we were talking down in Louisiana about some of the run and shoot stuff, right? Some of the classic run and shoot rules are the opposite of that approach, of they're turning the shoulders to make secondary guys move. So you can either come to a primary here and then reset for the other side, where we want everybody backing up so we can hit wherever our primary target indicator is. We can trigger off that guy. We're not helping him move to one side or the other.
Okay. And I love how you call it the honey hole.
Never heard it called anything else, so I'm kind of stuck with it. Okay, so another 5 high right there. So with that guy buzzing down, this slot needs to see this buzz down to the field and go outside shoulder to help protect this outside throw. Now I can almost bet that this kid takes a false step. Yep. Same thing. So here will be next year's starter.
It's a hard habit to break.
Yes. Oh, and this one, and he knows that he does it, but he's doing everything that he can. But as you watch this one move, watch how much faster he gets his feet up and down, knowing that he's going to his first read. Again, math and science. Math first for me, then we'll keep cleaning up your science. And we're talking basic, like first and second grade math. None of that stuff when they started adding English class. Okay, wide splits again. Push vertical. Number 2 wants to stay inside. Working the outside guy right now. So as you see, so a big one right here is watch the top slot and then watch the bottom slot. The bottom slot thinks that he's running into grass, but he's running himself into coverage. Where the top slot is going to hunt the window, knowing that somebody's over the top of him. So he's getting ready to hunt that window back to the hash, knowing that number 2 let him go. clearing to the first down marker where that guy's trying to stay on the run and run a pipe route or a bender instead of sitting down and coming right back down his little stem, where this guy's window is actually going to be back into the hash. So that's one of the big things that we work on with those inside guys, is knowing that they're not winning deep, that it's okay, and it's a better throw against split safety teams to just stop.
I like that. Now, what was that middle linebacker doing?
No idea. But we got to account for him. They had a really good defensive end that was annihilating us. So we were in some state protection all night. I think this is the one we finally slowed him down because we got underneath his pads. But we had to put hit the back on our freshman tackle to help him basically all night. So the mics were able to just drop at will against us that day.
Okay, I have another question about the back shoulder. How do you keep, or what are you teaching the quarterbacks to keep it accurate and not to sail it over their heads?
Again, that's not my expertise, I guess.
Gotcha.
For me, it's the balance and not overstepping or stepping over your knee when you're going through your throwing mechanics. Hopefully when you get Kurt Warner on this in the next couple of days, you can actually get a QB expert to talk about it. For me, the big one is their throwing mechanics is what that comes down to. You have to make sure that they're not overstriding, understriding, that their punch step, which is what everybody talked about, that old 6-inch step in the throwing mechanic, is proper, and that their knee's not completely locked out where they're throwing over the top of it. But to me, you got Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham down at Florida State, and then Bob Stitt, some of the guys that are known as experts in the back shoulder that live with it. Gus Malzahn lives with it. That's one of the things that we change, is going to the decision by the wide receiver. We don't end up in a lot of back shoulder situations.
Okay.
And I'm trying to be honest and not skirt the question and just give a BS thing. So hopefully that satisfies the coach.
Heck yeah.
I'd rather just be honest and tell you what we do than skirt the question and give you some coach speak nonchalant answer.
Give you a soundbite that you heard in clinic talk. Okay, so what formation do you like the forwards out of better?
Everything.
Now there you go.
No, so I'm gonna be. We ran 4 verts over 100 times last year.
Wow. Was it evenly dispersed in formations?
The ones that we did not run it out of as much as I would have liked to would have been our tight end sets. I love it with our switch verts and whether it's the outside 2 switching, inside 2 switching, 1 and 2 in a 2x2 switching. I love anything that we can do off of that. So any type of play action concept with the back into the run fit, and then switching wing tight end and a slot receiver, or a wing tight end and a single receiver when you're 2x2 with the wing to the boundary. Any version that we can get into of that, we've used before. That's just not what we were very good at last year. Our 2 best would be classic air raid ace early and late. So base 2x2, 3x1 right, 3x1 left. And then what we call wide, which is this split of everybody's outside the numbers or splitting the numbers and the sideline and the numbers in hash. And I love this against zone teams because you're making the windows bigger for the quarterback.
Okay. I was gonna ask that next. Is this like a base formation, or is this a tag to a formation?
It went in as a tag to a formation and became a base formation.
Okay.
Because we liked it so much. So now this is with some of our wide receiver split stuff. This is one of our big base formations. This was probably the 6th or 7th most used formation last year.
Now, you were also a big 4 verts guy when you coached at high school, right?
100%. I think for me, where most guys in the air raid start with mesh, I start with 4 verts.
Why's that?
For me, everything, because I came into it, and this is more of a history talk than anything, is I came into it studying it when it was already in full swing at Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
It was already redone as a 4 wide offense, even though he was still doing a bunch of other formations at the time. But when it became 4 wide is when I got into coaching. And so for me, it's a 4 wide base mindset. And then besides the air raid and the run and shoot, which is 4 wide, I was a big component of like the run and gun of Rich Rod at Tulane and Clemson, and then the late Randy Walker at Northwestern when they switched to it. Is, to me, that's where it starts, because it's easy reach for the quarterback, and then it helps me break all the other concepts down for the quarterback.
Okay.
Especially since we throw it like quick game, you don't need to have the drop back time that you need in some of the other concepts. But you want to switch over to our Vegas series?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. So this is our second play of the night. This is what we call Vegas, which is a rollout. And so it came from our time at UCLA going to A&M, and then I really started maximizing it at Campbell, and now at Texas Southern. Great drive starter, great P&10, great rhythm play to get the quarterback going again, great third down call. It's universal for us, which is something that I really like, so I don't have to have plays just for certain segments of the game, something that I can use universally. And what it is when we got into the RPO phase of the game, when you're running inside zone at a 3-by-1, you're normally running some type of read on that side, and then you're throwing the classic gift on this side, which most guys refer to or know about, all right? So in this series, we're doing the same thing. The O-line up front is going to block inside zone to the call side like they're blocking zone. And then the singles running the gift like he would on inside zone. Now we'll tag a 3-receiver concept to the field, and the quarterback's going to work access quick throw to this side. And if he doesn't have it, he's going to sprint to this side, because the back is going to lazily pop his feet, and then he's going to set the edge after the line starts blocking inside zone, getting everybody up front to run fit. This has become more proficient for us than calling true sprint out concepts, because you're not trying to set the edge as you're running away from another edge. Is you're getting them to run fit, and then you're pinning the edge or C-gap defender and getting the quarterback out on the edge. Our number one concept to this out of the 3-by-1 is number 1 is going to be on a comeback. Number 2 is on a seam curl, so it's no longer a read. He's got the curl, so at 12, he's going to start breaking down, and he's hunting that window between 12 and 14. Again, +3 to -3 of the hash, trying to outside release number 2. And you'll see that we did not do a great job, myself primarily coaching that up, as he would go inside the number 2 defender quite a bit. Number 3 now is going to kind of stalk release, like he's coming off to block. All right. And then he's going to run an out route. Okay. And so that's one of the big coaching points, is you'll see in one of the clips from the Southern game, is he got confused with the regular out rules, which is if he sees cloud, he stops. And this one where you have to go to the sideline and get yourself covered, because you're actually trying to get the curl uncovered, not stay away from your danger defender, which could be a cloud corner. Okay, so right there, raise up if you have it, take it. So second down, just right in that intermediate area of 2nd and 7. So to us, that would be off schedule. We need to get back into a 3rd and manageable.
I just like the way you block this, because that makes it really simple for the OL.
Anything to do for those 5 guys that they don't have. So for me, anything that we can add that's not a new scheme, I'm in for it. If it fits what we do scheme and teaching wise, we can do it, because then to me, it's not a new play. So this whole series is all components of routes and reads that we already do and blocking schemes we already do. So like 72 right here needs to take a better inside zone step. he's a little too passive trying to set quick game on his side.
That's so easy too.
Okay, freshman quarterback starting his first game. Okay, third down, trying to run the clock out. And this was back when we were doing outside zone with it, thinking that it would get him to run fit better. But as you see, there's a little bit too much run through with it when you get backside pressure. It's still a quick game, first down, and you're not even really having to run a pass protection.
All right, so you started with outside zone.
Originally, when I put it in, it started with outside zone.
How long until you switched it to inside zone?
Texas. Let's see. I don't know if we switched it the second year at Campbell or if I switched it to inside zone this year at Texas Southern.
Okay.
I don't remember when the switch took place. Okay, this should not be in this order. Okay, but it should be in progression order of working these quick routes. But again, out of a 20 personnel pistol look, just dressing it up, driving the ball. Now he's got to stay right there. He can't drift too much. And I think he starts drifting a little bit much and pops his head and drops his ball. But one of those big plays for us where you get outside number 2, let him see that come back a flat and then just sit there and try to beat the mic trying to buzz back out.
God, that's so nasty. That whole defense thought it was a run.
Anything I can do to make them run fit and not get out or get into pass pro or a pass rush.
And you don't see that when you do straight up like sprint out. They'll come straight through.
Yep. Okay, so this is the one where he throttles down on the stalk out, but he's got to get to the flat.
Goodness. This is blowing my mind right now. You beautiful, beautiful bastard. I mean that in the nicest way possible. Jolly, can he run that end zone view again? Are you talking about the previous play? Probably, because we just got to the end zone view right here.
I moved out of that one just because it was more of the wide zone one, and I didn't want to spend as much time on it. If he wants me to go back to the wide, I'll pause right here. If he wants me to go back to the wide zone one, I can.
Jolly, do you put a yes if you want to? All right, Michael says, is he making a solid call with his tackle on the backside? Like, what are you telling?
So in these odd defenses, just like in our inside zone world, if you start getting a threat from the outside, you got to think that one of them is going to be a B gap player and one's going to be a C gap player. Well, it looks like he's getting the end zone because I went backwards anyway.
He said yes anyways. Look at it.
Yeah, perfect. Well, how many did I go back?
I think that was it. I think that was the one.
So right there, as you see this, what would be the right tackle against 97, feels it because of the 3-3 stack defense, knows that somebody's going to have to play B gap, steps, and then sees him coming. So he high arms him and brings him with him.
All right. So Travis, I knew that was you. He said, is this basically just a hitch boot?
Basically, yes.
You probably know Travis, but
I take the credit. Like I said, I steal a lot of stuff in this profession. All right. Stole this from originally from Rod Smith when he was at Arizona under Rich Rod. And then I went out there to visit them and had a long conversation about this whole series is a whole, because for me, if I'm going to put it in under the guidance of the pirate himself, Mike Leach, is if you're going to add something, you got to take something out, right? So for me, add this, it's got to be a whole package that we can use against everything. I want a universal thought process that no matter what they're playing us against, we're going to have options for the quarterback to get the ball out of his hands.
So did you take anything out?
Originally mesh.
I can see that.
We ran a form of mesh last year, but I haven't run mesh in years.
That's
since
always
we
that's always like the first one that gets taken out. It seems like, unless you're Leech or Mummy.
Yep. To me, once you started getting into the RPO phase of things in 2000, for us, like shoot, a long time ago, but like really heavy in like 12 and 13 is you have too much practice time in that stuff that auxiliary plays like this help you have complements to your RPO world.
And
So if you're RPO heavy of the guys listening, it's a great, easy play to put in because it's going right along with your RPO teaching of access to that single receiver hitch. If you play with tighter splits, you can do the out route. Anything that you can do on one step, you can throw over there.
Yeah, Travis says mesh is too expensive, Ron. I'm telling you. Shut your mouth.
If it's your base play, it's the most beautiful artwork in the history of football.
Thank you. It's an intricate dance.
Next to split back veer.
I do like split. Sometimes when I was in class way back when, before we got locked down, I would look up highlights of the split back veer.
So Houston ran it, of course, and created it with Yaman, and Jackie Yates High School ran it. Oh crap! Hopefully, I'm allowed to say that. But our head coach was a former head coach there, and again, this is a busted play. Okay, so let's talk about this real quick, and then I'll go back to the split back veer part. All right, no edge threat when you're in a 4-2 box right here, except for the defensive end. If it doesn't become the defensive end, then it becomes the scraping backer in a scrape exchange, just like inside zone. This back gets too wide when there is no edge threat for him to defend besides those two box players, which one of them will become the threat. Now he can become a mesh charger because that back gets too wide. And now the back can't bail himself out because he gets too wide too early. So that's one of the biggest coaching points is he's got to understand that triangle from that tackle to the next receiver of how many defenders are in it and know who his edge threat is. Secondly, this wide receiver just starts running around, which is definitely not what we want him to do. But he balled out the last few weeks running this concept, so we kind of let him do it.
All right, and I have a question about that. Is it a 12-yard landmark on the comeback?
Well, this guy's kind of doing his own double move stuff down here at the bottom. It should be 16 back to 14 or 18 back to 16, depending on your receiver. So, like certain receivers, we tell them, especially if they're our primary guy, like, hey, you guys are actually running this at 18.
Okay.
Just because they can do it. And then the other part is, can the quarterback drive that ball even on the run? So you got to make sure that you're taking into account the arm strength of your quarterback. But back to split back veer, I got to pause for 1 second. Our head coach ran split back veer, went and played college because of it, ran it, coached it, all that. So the first play we ran this year was split back veer out of the gun, just to honor the city of Houston. But like everybody says, it was basically inside zone to us because we were not going to invest the time to run veer one time. But mesh and veer to me coincide. Is they're intricate plays that you got to become masters of. That you got to spend the time on them. So if you're not going to be a mesh guy, don't even get into it. There's other versions of mesh or especially double rubs that you can run to complement it. Sorry. Soapbox moment over.
That's it, man. I love your soapboxes. Now, I have a question. Do you run this concept to the dominant side of the quarterback? So if it's right-handed, you only run it to the right side, and left, you only run? Okay.
Half the time, I don't even know. Like last year, we ran our speed option to the left-hand side, and I swore, and I met you and I told you I swore off option years ago, is we put in speed option last year, and we actually ran it, I think at the end of the year, it was like 80-something% to his left hand.
Why do you think that is?
Situational football. We were doing so much stuff of getting certain outside guys the ball, or we'd be in a rhythm of getting a certain outside guy the ball in a game that they'd be clouding, that the check would go the other way. And so we'd be running the speed option back to the left so much because we were on the right hash. or whatever. It was just it was a weird way that it worked out. But no, for the most part, this is not a play that I look at of like, he's got to get back to it. But that's why, like, a lot of guys ask me why I don't run classic flood of like the post out flat. Well, to me, if we're going left, you're never going to see the post. And to me, I want to be able to throw all three options. I don't want to be stuck that if they get underneath the sail concept or the flood concept, he's dead in the water.
That is true. I didn't even think about that.
I don't know what it is. I don't like, and again, I'm not trying to act like the smartest guy in the world, but I'm also not trying to avoid the question. This receiver does not run this route, the seam curl, properly very much, as you see, but he's getting himself open. But at the same time, for whatever reason, everywhere I've been and everybody that I've studied that runs this play, including a bunch of people when we were in the Pac-12, were using it against each other. People that stayed to this variation were proficient all the time. I don't know why that curl comes open all the time, but it just does. Like, I have no explanation on why that guy becomes the guy that's uncovered all the time.
Do you think it's because y'all are teaching grass and finding grass, and then I don't know. Going back
Are
to
you talking about for the receiver or for who comes open?
Just who comes up. Do you think that normally when people run this, they're running that flood concept, and number two is usually running to the out, but now he's kind of coming back inside, and it's messing with them?
It could be that could be a great analogy. I've asked a bunch of people it, because this has been one of the big clinics for me this offseason, is talking about this. And I've never had a valid discussion on why the curl is the one that's always open. But you're right. Normally when you get this look, you are running a 3-level flood to the field. So it could be that reason that they're getting ready for the out route instead of the curl route.
I don't know, but you were right. He is wide open.
This game was gross. There's like 6 inches of mud and water on that field.
And I love how you're still throwing it, baby. I love that.
If we had power read in the offense at that point, we would have been running power read about 65 times.
Great segue, coaches. If you didn't know this, Coach Marsh he has a bundle on CoachTube about the quarterback run package, and it is what we actually sat down at the One Back Clinic and talked about, because that's the offense we were going toward, because I had a situation pop up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that bundle in the chat, as well as his Twitter account. And if you want to get in touch, all you have to do is just tweet him, and he will he will answer like that. So it's in there, right? I'm gonna spam it, because I've seen it, the run game package, and it's unbelievable. So if you have a running quarterback in your offense, you need to get this bundle, because it covers everything.
Yeah, that was my baby for a long time, was the quarterback run game, going all the way back to the high school days of building packages off of that. And that's one reason that this play became so vital to us at Campbell, was of our running quarterbacks. And then it just kind of became a dominant concept for us last year. I think proficiency in our entire offense, this was our most proficient play all last year.
Okay, I want to touch on that. How, after the season's over with, how do you dive into the data? Like, what are you looking at to get better for next year?
So we try to do it throughout the season of not running what we're not good at. Like, I'll get rid of stuff if we find out that we're not.
I love that.
Because now, again, like, we need to stay with it a little bit longer than I normally do. But like, for me, all right, so overall, first year going into a place, we'll go in with the whole coach's playbook, and we're going to throw a bunch at the kids and then see what sticks with the kids that we have. And then by the time we come back in fall camp, we'll have geared it a little bit more towards them. Because when you're taking over programs, you never know what you're going to have. So especially at the high school level or whatever, you got to adapt a little bit more. So for me, we're going to adapt around the kids that we have as much as possible within the realm of our philosophy and our overarching system. All right. So when we get done with the year, then we want to break down what we were officially good at. So proficiency for us is 4 yards or more, third down conversions, or touchdowns. If it doesn't go into that, it's not proficient. And so then the first thing we want to look at is the proficiency of our plays. All right, so we're gonna go right into it of the breakdown, and they're just gonna put up Vegas is, I think it was 88% or something like that in proficiency last year, and it was our number one third down play. So it was one of those things that if it's 88%, I need to run it more. I need to run more variations of it, and it not necessarily actually, let's just call it what it is. I need to expand the package to make it even more valuable, because our kids do it really well. Run it for more formations, dress it up more, call it more, open with it more, different things like that. And then plays that we're not good at, you need to go back in and why. All right. Is it teaching? Are we at fault for the play not being good? It can't be that it's always just the kids. They're doing what they're being taught to do. You're coaching it or allowing it to happen. So either I need to get better at teaching it so they're better at doing it, or I need to make sure that they're doing it the way that we want it to do. Right? That's the biggest thing on film, is that's what you're putting out there. So like if we're not blocking a run play right, we're not very good at teaching it. We got to get better at teaching it. So like certain run plays are core to our offense. We have to get better at running those run plays because they weren't very proficient last year. Okay. Then you don't think they're proficient, but you get the numbers at the end of the year and it should have been called 20% more. There's something to do with analytics, but I don't want to live in the analytics world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally understand. Now, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Of Vegas?
Not on this tape. Okay. We do run other concepts out of it. Like as you saw on the stack, they were going to switch release and run an out route because he was in a tighter split. And then the other guy's already curling because he's already near the hash. We have had the sail in. We do not run it very much, just because this play's been so much more proficient. And then we will run it at a 2x2, but this is only the 3x1 cutup.
Okay. Also, I just want to let you know that our boy Drew just texted me and said that he is loving this this concept right here, this rollout. So you know it has to be special when Drew freaking Piscopo is like, I like the rollout. That is nice.
Yeah, and for me, like one of the big things is we always talk about taking over places. I know it's public what you told me before we started, right?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
You're in a new job, so you're gonna go into this. So you're gonna be teaching from the get-go what you want to do. But if you realize that some of your kids aren't capable of sitting there and throwing mesh 20 times a game, drop back wise, you're gonna still work drop back. You might not run mesh as much, right? Because you can't drop back as much. So you add this for the year because all it is inside zone.
Yeah, I love that,
and to me, that's the beauty of it. Again, the 5 dudes that have to work together on every play have to get most comfortable learning each scheme. So if they're running inside zone, even on a pass play, well, it's not a new play to me.
So are you giving them, like, let's say inside zone, everybody knows null stuff is Zorro. So are you saying like Zorro and then giving like a key term to let the line know? Not or
so it's its own series. So like it could be one of the ways that we've done it in the past was 12 and 13 was zone. So if we were going to call a run play, it would be coded 412 or 413, and then for our nakeds, it would be 812, 813.
Okay, I gotcha.
You give it to it. Like what I want phrases, whether you use numbers or words or however you call stuff to your kids, give it to them in an arena tied to the words that you use.
Okay.
So if you use brown shoe for inside zone and black shoe for inside zone left, call it sneaker for shoe and sneaker, or shoe and Jordans, whatever, like anything that relates to the base way and base mechanism that their brain's going to learn the main scheme. And then you teach them like, hey, on this, you're blocking it, but then you just got to not go downfield because we're actually running a sprint out away from you.
Okay. I love it. I love it. And you're right. If I've done it every year, I always go in spring running mesh and installing it. And then after like the second or third game, if it doesn't work, I'm just like, okay, screw it. That's over with. I'm not going to pound my head against the wall over and over because you just don't get it. So I like. Now, is that concept? Is that something you put in on day one, or is that like the if one of those things doesn't work?
No. So this has become like one of our number one. So just a little bit about me. When I say that I came up in the air raid, my brain doesn't work like a lot of the air raid guys do. I'm an OCD control freak, to put it politely. For me, my brain has to work in a systematic approach to it. AKA, I hate to admit this, but I'm a wing T guy mentally.
Don't you say anything. They get on me too about that because I say I like the if then structure of the wing T.
Yes, it's a component of this protects my inside zone, and that's how I see it. This is, to me, it's the wing T's version of waggle off of, and I don't know the wing T series, so I'm going to screw it up, so I don't want to offend them, but off of like trap and belly and waggle or whatever the series would be is it's just a component that goes into protecting those plays. So my brain likes things that complement each other when it comes to systematically structuring the offense of, if I'm going to run this, I need something to complement it without changing a bunch of stuff for the different kids.
Yeah. And Coach Mack in there says, if then till I die. And look at you. You say you're not smart, but yet you in this interview you've used math and science, systematized if then. Look at you, man. You just don't want people to know how smart you are.
I'm not even going to get into that. We're not going to show test scores. That's all. All right. Actually, I don't know how many people are listening or what's going on, but I'll just put it like this: enlisted service member, not an officer. That should tell anybody that knows the difference exactly my intelligence level. All
right, so here we go. Travis says, I love the series stuff, though. I've been trying to find ways to build passing concepts into series for years. I love it that way. That's nice. All right, Michael wants to know, before you cut him loose, Ron, could you please have him show the all-22 one more time with the wide 2x2? Are you talking about doing the 4 verts wide, Michael? And while you bring that up, what made you decide to go wide? Was that like the Baylor influence?
Yes.
Okay.
And when my last year in high school, we basically were running our passing game from the Baylor splits, wide receiver wise. So at the high school level, our number 3 receiver was not allowed inside the hash on the opposite side. And number 2, normally about 3 steps outside the hash.
And that just cleared everything up.
For me, because we had such a dominant quarterback, run game and read game, that it made the windows in the passing game that much clearer when we'd run all our run action pass concepts.
Okay. And yes, Michael wanted to see the wide 2x2. What did you want to know about, Michael?
Oh, he wants to know about it or see it?
He wants both. He wants to see it real quick and then do it.
I don't know what I'm doing. Hold on one second.
All right, so his question is, if you wanted to run stick or corner, you wouldn't go ace wide or just wide?
Okay. Yes and no. What's his name so I can write it down?
Michael.
I forget you don't get all the information.
I don't.
Okay. I will see what I can do about fixing that then. Hold on one second. So, all right, so we're back in the first clip. So I just knew that this one was wide. Okay, from the middle of the field, we would not run 6-18 or 8 stick, corner, whatever you want to call it, right? But if we were on the hash, okay, I can't believe I just guessed I was on the hash on that one and wide. Okay, you can do it. So if the back is on this side, okay, now you have to play with it and modify your brain to the spacing of the field. Okay, you can run stick. He's just got to attack that number 2 defender's spacing right there, and you still have the vertical. And that's a crappy line, but I'm drawing my table right here, and it ain't helping. Okay, so you can run stick and free release the back, but remember these will have to be run to the boundary then, because it's the only way to get the back in the triangle read to that side. Now, if you're going to run corner or snag or however you want to call it, you can run it. And this is how we ran Noel's 2-man snag, or what he called Exxon, is if we ran it out of a 2x2 and normally it'd be off of motion or whatever, is this number 2 then is going to run the inside fade. And again, crappy lines. Let's see if I can get it to widen. Is you run what Oklahoma is really mastering is all those inside fades to those guys, where he's going to end up the numbers, and then you're running either the snag, which is ending up in the same stick lane mark, or you're going to go up it vertically and in and settle off that number 2 guy. So your guy that's really running it is you're basically clearing out with one, and then you're playing a 2-man game underneath with off that number 2 defender. Okay. But you don't be able to run into the boundary.
Nice. Coach Mack wants to know it becomes more of a Z spot path out of the water split, right?
Basically, yeah. Spot, if that's what I know, a lot of guys call it Z or X spot or RL spot, and then the only like we would call it something different than the spot concept, because spot for a lot of guys is always going to be the corner on the inside. So for like us, we'd call it like slice or something for inside fade, and just to give it some mechanism where the inside guy knows that his concept is different when we're running it this way to the rest of the ways we normally do it.
Okay. And Michael says, got it. Thank you. Similar adjustments to how we run it out of stack. Thank you so much.
Yes. So that's when I was talking to myself, we ran it out of stack at Campbell. We just never technically ran it out of wide.
Okay.
So it was the same rules out of stack as it is wide.
All right. Coaches, if you have any more questions, go ahead, put them in chat.
Please.
And Coach, while they are doing that, we've been in quarantine for like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Are you breaking down any film from anybody? If so,
everybody.
Okay, so who's tickled your fancy that when you're breaking it down, you went, "Oh my goodness, this is some good stuff."
Shoot. So I always do people that I always study. So you're always going to study the Pirate Leech. Mm-hmm. To me, I always love studying Noel, because I spent a lot of years with him, and we have a lot of stuff in common with that. I thought Coach Harrell at USC did a great job, especially with the true freshman quarterback. Loved some of the wrinkles that he was doing. Coach Longo does an excellent job with looking at him. And then for me, I'm just going to study anybody that I can get my hands on. So like there's like guys like yourself that I've developed rapport with, that we'll talk some ball. I'll shoot questions with Drew once in a while. Excuse me. There's some quality controls that were either former high school guys or first getting in that I reach out to, and we get on Zoom and discuss. For me, like I said, my biggest thing is not always X's and O's when I'm talking football with people. Mine, again, I got to overcome the brain housing group part of it and get my teaching better. So for me, it's just how you teach. So like, it's not always what people are doing, it's how they're teaching it. So like everything that I just taught you, I've stolen every aspect from somebody else to make it my own. Coach Longo was very nice to me for a long time, and still is I've studied every note that I could on him in his backpedal drop. Anytime I have a question about it, I go back to him, because that, to me, that's the master of the backpedal in this offense. Coach Mazzoni on a lot of technical stuff within the realm of what we do with our motion series and our snag series. Coach McKinney, my head coach for the running game. So like for me, I always like just getting better at teaching. So one of our biggest phrases in our offensive staff meetings is don't use 6 words when 3 will do, and don't use 3 words when 1 will do. So everything we try to do is when we write it up on the board or we do something, you need to get your teaching down to 1 to 3 words so the kids know exactly what you're talking about. So like the way we ID defenses, the fronts, the second level, the third level, we want everything down to 1 or 2 words. Our kids are not going to memorize an NFL defensive structure of 57 different ways to ID a 4-man front. We don't have enough time in the day and football knowledge to do that with our kids, which is long-winded again. But so for me, it's always looking at it and then calling people that do it to find the best way to teach the same concepts we're already doing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And okay, so I want to go to, you said you used the drops because of Coach Longo.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on what Leach is doing with his quarterback drop, where it's kind of just like a drop step and you just sit there?
Okay, so for me, I don't know what they're being taught precisely with that, besides like I know in the quick game they are and some of the tags they are. Is it seems like it's like 1 in a shuffle on all free release quick game stuff. And then it's like a sped up 3-step drop if it's a true like 90 series concept called. And I love it because that's what we went to at UCLA with Taylor Mazzoni and Noel Mazzoni with all our free release snag stuff was a 1 in a shuffle, which they call a 1 piece. That way the quarterback can get to the first and second read right now and then trigger to the backside based off of what they're seeing. I want to say the number 1 pick, Burrow, was doing a lot of that same drop, especially with all their free release stuff. But again, it's closed off. And for me, that hasn't been my bread and butter since I've become a guy. So it's like some of that just is really intricate. And I just love within the combination of being air raid based within an RPO additions, I just like the back pedal because then just like in most of our RPOs, the quarterback's shoulders are squared and then he's triggering, or what we call, as you heard me saying it, pop his feet, is he's popping his feet into place from being square to be able to trigger the ball.
Okay. All right. Now we got some questions. Let's see. Coach Mack wants to know your thoughts on the Baylor deep choice. Just a preface for this. He actually played at Baylor when they were doing that. But what are your thoughts on that old, the Bryles deep choice route?
Absolutely love it. For me, I love system. Like I said, yes, no, what if then, or
if
is
then,
that
if then?
Okay. Is I'm a systematic approach football guy. Like my biggest games of the year are anytime I can see air raid teams play each other or Army Navy watching triple option. Like because they're the same offense. Yeah. They're doing it a different way, but they're the same thing in my brain. So like to me, the beauty of their system is the same thing. Is it's if then, and they have a few things that they do and they're really good at it, and then they're going to wrinkle it all together to make it work based off of what your defense does. But because it's all also so unique, like the option is, and to an extent, Leach's pureness is and Mummy's pureness is you're going to get these guys that are going to try to create a new defense in 3 days, and then they're going to get torn up. And it's the same thing that you saw against them as people who are trying to do something new every time.
Okay. Coach Witt says great concepts will definitely be installing. He's a new high school OC going from double wing to spread, so have fun with that.
Right up your alley then, because it ties right into inside zone, or if you're going to be a man scheme veer guy out of the gun, this is right up that alley because it's the same thing for the whole line.
All right, Coach MK, suggestions on film breakdown for beginners.
in what regards?
I don't know. So MK, go ahead and put that in chat. People ask, yes, this interview will be on my YouTube channel right when it's over with. I'm gonna download it and upload it again, and then I'll be sending that out in email. So don't worry. Coach Charlie says, nothing on my patchy beard, but your beard is on point. How are you getting it out of point? Because he's trying to grow one in quarantine, and his is getting out of hand.
If it's the first time, just let it go until it's been growing for a little while. The first time I let it really go, it shot out like a porcupine for a while, and it was itchy and irritating. Half the time, I don't even realize that I have facial hair anymore, and it's going on. I don't even want to admit how long now. Since I left the service, I haven't been clean shaven, to say the least. Anyway, you got to let it go the first time, because you've got to get it to start overlapping and falling down. And that's where the thickness, it's not a naturally thick beard, will come from. Is you'll get extra thickness the longer that it gets, because it'll start overlapping. And then you just got to keep letting it go and then trim it, let it go and trim it until you're finding the length that you want it at. But the longer it gets, the more you have to trim it, because 2 or 3 hairs is going to make you look like you haven't trimmed anything in a week, where normally if you shave and you go for the shadow, you can get away with a few days here and there, because that's just the look. Once the beard goes in, you got to be grooming the ears and around the mouth as much as possible. Otherwise, some superiors could take it the wrong way.
Yes, and I've tried to grow a beard. The longest I've gone is 7 months, and I just catch like a random glance in the mirror, and I go, oh my God, I look like a homeless person. I'm going to shave it. But look at that, fellas. You come here for 4 verts in the rollout package, and you get beard advice. Yeah. There's nothing you don't learn here. All right,
I'm going to end up having a cooking class by the time this lecture's over.
Okay. I don't know if you watch any YouTube videos on cooking. Binging with Babish. Do you watch that?
No.
Binging with Babish. I'll send you the link whenever Twitter DMs. Awesome. I love it. I love it. All right. Michael wants to know, are you a big PSO guy with all the Mazzoni influence? I guess pass screen?
Yeah, we do a bunch of it. I'm the worst play caller when it comes to calling screens in the history of football. For whatever reason, that's just not something that I call enough of. I need to be better at it, to say the least.
Hey, I'm guilty too. The most screens I throw are the quick screens to the outside. That's it.
Yes.
But tunnels and slow screens and all that.
You need to do them, but I just never do. I don't know why. They're always good. And it's funny. I think it's because, and somebody argued this with me, screens never work in practice. So for plays aren't working in practice, I have a hard time wanting to call them in games. But I've never met anybody that tells me that screens work in practice for them. Screens don't work ever for anybody in practice. They just work in games, which, again, doesn't make sense.
You're absolutely right. And you don't – yeah, because then you don't get a chance to see if they work or not, or when to call them in practice or not, because usually when you call them – for me, when I call them in practice and when I script them, it's right when the D-line just like, man, F it. I'm not going to rush. I'm too tired. And then they sniff it out, and you're like, well, it doesn't work. You're absolutely – I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so MK wants to know, going back to the studying film, what should he be doing if he's not coaching and he's just learning? Should he be breaking down film? Should he be trying to volunteer somewhere? What are your thoughts?
Considering you are breaking in at probably the best time in history of football to break in, because you have a bunch of nerds sitting at home watching film and getting on Zoom every day, hit me up on Twitter. I'll get on Zoom with you. I'll just talk shop with you. I don't care. There's so many people out there talking football right now that, to me, the best time to learn, even learning another offense that you're not a part of, is the best time to learn. But to me, I was very fortunate coming out of the military in the way that my brain, again, and I'm talking about my brain, not everybody else's. 2 things for me is I believe in sweeping the floors first. So for me, I'm going to start at the bottom, and I know it. So when I'm in a room with older coaches, at least experience-wise, I'm not going to say anything until they address me. That's just the way that I work. Probably why my brain worked good in the military, because I just sat there until I was spoken to. It's one of those things that learn by listening as much as possible, but take copious amounts of notes and then ask those questions that you have in your notes when you have a chance with one-on-one with the person that said it. So like I always wrote my notes in the corners of a piece of paper based off of where people in the office sat. So like our head coach sat in the back right, offensive line coach, offensive coordinator sat in the back left, defensive coordinator was on the same side, O-line coach sat in the middle. So if I sat in the corner away from everybody, as they're talking, I'm writing in the section of my paper where they talked, and then I would talk to them. The second one is go to as many clinics as you can, which you can't right now, but thank goodness everybody's online doing it.
Zoomapalooza.
Read as much as possible. I know it can become costly, but and I'm the worst at like trying to sell stuff on CoachTube, and I know I need to do better and load all this stuff up there because I have a gazillion of them dubbed over to go on it, and I just never do it. I know it comes out of pocket, but there are so many good resources on CoachTube right now that no matter what you want to study, something's out there for you. YouTube, Coach's channel is fantastic from the people that come on here and the stuff that he puts up. That there's amazing amounts of resources everywhere. And it's just learning and then asking questions. If you don't understand something, ask. Because to me, one of the biggest things that I always say, and some people think it's just coach speak, is I don't know. If I say I don't know, I don't know, and I want somebody to help me. Where most people see it as, oh, you have the offensive coordinator title, you must know all of it. No, there's certain things that I've just never run before.
No.
There's certain concepts that I've never been around. I grew up in this system. I don't even know how long I was with Coach Mazzoni. I darn near spent most of my holidays with him because I was with them for so long. So we do certain things, and then we've evolved in doing other things. There's a whole world that I've never coached in. So I'm not the expert in a lot of it. So when you see it and you want to do it, well, you don't want to put it in that week because you saw it on Saturday. You don't know how to coach it yet. So make sure that you're just asking questions to people that are willing to talk to you. Because somebody somewhere is running an offense for almost all 127 FBS schools, because there's local school in the area, or they see them on TV every week and they're trying to run what they run, and then they go visit them. So to me, there's a gazillion people out there that are willing, especially right now, to talk.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on that, if you're not on Twitter, because that's kind of like that's the social media for coaches, get on there and just shoot your shot, man. Because most of the time, especially like you said, we're bored.
Mm-hmm.
We need that distraction, so just hit them up and they'll come right back at you. Coach Weep says, beard and football talk. This is amazing. Air raid and beer tips. This is fabulous. Jolly, can't believe I asked you about your beard.
Love it.
Coach says, installing the beard day one.
See, that's what I remember.
Okay, Coach Court, he goes, do you, I know this is getting totally off topic, but you say you're starting to cook. Do you use a smoker?
No, not yet, because I don't have a patio or a driveway or anything to take outside.
Okay, that's what he was going to ask. He first asked
I will say this. I know it's sacrilege, and I probably shouldn't admit this in the beautiful country of Texas that I live in, but I actually pan-sear my steaks more than I cook them on the.
Yes, sir.
And they are phenomenal.
And butter based it?
Oh yeah, butter, garlic, thyme.
Please be quiet. I'm getting hungry right now just thinking about it. I did it for the first time after watching Binges with Babish. I got to plug that again. Mm-hmm. You got to look at it. I was home by myself one of the few times, and I had a steak, and I was like, my wife's going to hate me, but I'm still going to do it. Butter based it, seared it, all of that. It was the best thing I've ever had in my life, like hands down.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what cut you like. The steak's just better doing it that way.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. All right. Coach Court says the last few minutes that you were just talking about is worth your money. So if you haven't taken anything away from this, what you just said about how to get ahead and to learn, that makes this interview. And my stomach's rumbling right now. All right, so fellas, I appreciate you being here, man. This was so fun. Again, if you want to reach out, there's his bundle on CoachTube. It is unbelievable. Seriously, y'all know I don't promote anything unless I really like it, and this is something I freaking love. And his Twitter account, if you have any questions, hit him up. He will get back to you. He is great about that. This will also be on my YouTube. But I just want to say first to you, Coach Marsh, thank you for making history with me, and for you coaches.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank y'all for making history. Y'all be safe. Bob and weave, Coach.
I got almost everybody, but please make sure if I don't follow you back, I should be able to follow everybody tonight as it's sitting here open. So message is over as I get back to you.
All right. So again, hit them up, man. I'm gonna spam it one more time. There it is. Seriously, if you have a running quarterback, get that package. You will not be disappointed. I promise. Coach Sully, this is great. Thank you for serving. Looking forward to implementing a lot in the future. No problem. And until next time, coaches, let's continue to master the spread, score points, and have fun.